Starting early. Hey, everyone. Hi there. Welcome to the Starseeds and Lightworkers Collective. We're just having a quick test to make sure everything is ready to go because last 2 weeks have been absolutely crazy with our techno, and it seems that some of the issues were on the side of YouTube because they've made some changes. So we are just here to just test out and to make sure that we are on track. And I just wanted to just say hi to everyone. Also take this time to say that next week is going to be a busy week. Next week we have a couple of events planned, and we have our returning darling, Miss Beck Coop, who's going to be coming back to do the full ceremony, the Blue Lotus ceremony with us, based on the Blue Lotus, which is an ancient Egyptian flower. I mean, it's found throughout the Middle East, but especially within Egypt. And we're going to be doing the ceremony, and we're going to be going through all that and discussing the relevance of how it relates to the gods, and in particular the god Nefertem. And as well, we are going to be looking at some of the benefits of taking the blue lotus flowers. So that's going to be quite interesting. And then on Friday, we are also going to be having an early pre-show from 7 to 8. And that pre-show is going to be, we're going to be doing an interview with one of our star members, Mr. Kevin Estrella. He's been on the show a couple of times, and he is a very gifted musician, and he is also a contactee with the group, the extraterrestrial group, the Ponti. And so the Ponti have influenced his music for many, many years, and he's going to be talking with us about that influence as well. He's going to be telling us about his show that he's going to be doing next week, next Thursday, actually. And we were supposed to be in Toronto next week, but it didn't really turn out, but that's okay. So we are going to just be doing a play-by-play of the Gate Night. That was a tribute to Ozzy Osbourne, and Kevin will be playing in that show on Thursday, October 30th. So you're more than welcome to check that out. There's information about that on his website, Pyramids on Mars. And if you just look up Gate Night Toronto, it's going to be at the Imperial Pub. I think it's 54 Dundas East, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're in the Toronto area, you can check that out and check out his concert. And then we're going to be doing an interview with Kevin to discuss the show and his music. And it'll be our darling as well, Miss Angela Levasseur, who's also a member and is also a presenter on the show. She'll also be talking with him and giving us an interview. We'll be having some excerpts from the show. And so that'll be great. And then, so again, that's going to be from 7 to 8 next Friday. And then because next Friday is Halloween, we're going to be having a ghostly show as well. We're going to be having Melissa McQuillan coming back to talk with us about her experiences about growing up in a house in Ontario, actually. She's from Ontario. And she grew up in a house with ghosts. So right in time for Halloween. So that's going to be pretty fun. And so if you want to sort of find out what it's like to grow up with the ghosties and find out about her experiences, then please join us from 8 to 10 next Friday after the interview with Kevin Estrella. And you can listen to these stories. And if you have also stories that you want to share with us, please go ahead. So that's for next week. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope we can see you there for our little Halloween special next week, next Friday. And also, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on the Wednesday for our Blue Lotus ceremony with Beck Coop. So tonight, we are going to be completing our 4-part series with the Rosicrucian Order. And we are going to be given a beautiful presentation by Dr. Hugh McCaig. And he's going to be talking to us about how to raise our cosmic consciousness. And it's going to be very, very interesting tonight and in depth. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I hope you are too. So, yeah. So as some of you know, if you've been on the show before and you've met Dr. McCaig, he works as a statistician and a mathematician at the Institute for Social Research at York University. and his work involves assisting health researchers' studies, including wide-ranging benefits of meditation. And he's been on the show as well to talk with us about the different aspects of the Rosicrucian Order. He is a long term member, and also he is an officer and presenter in the Rosicrucian Order. And he is also the regional manager and president of the Toronto Lodge for the Rosicrucian Order. So we are in good hands tonight. And it's bittersweet because I love Hugh. I love his presentations. They're always so spiritually moving, and we learn so much when we're talking with him. And so it's going to be a shame to see him go, but I'm sure we'll have him back for other presentations as well. But tonight we're going to be talking about cosmic consciousness in regards to the Rosicrucian Order. So, without further ado, did you want to talk a little bit more with us, Dr. McCaig, as to what we'll be discussing this evening?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Crystal. Great to be back with you, and
Yeah.
great to be here with everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. So, by way of introduction, I'll mention that in this final episode, focusing on the Rosicrucian Order, we'll talk about something of central importance to the Rosicrucians, and indeed mysticism. And I would say life itself is to assist us in evolving and maturing into the state of cosmic consciousness. And so, what are the characteristics of cosmic consciousness? How does the realization of this state transform us, make us whole, and increase our capacity for service? So, we're addressing those questions directly and indirectly. Some slides to show you with some artworks. Also, we'll have some mystical exercises and meditation period to make it very practical. Thank you.
That's great. Perfect.
Okay, so I'll share some slides now. So you'll be seeing a work now that's entitled Cosmic Face.
Okay.
It's actually a work in graphite by an artist named Michael White. I first saw this particular work at the annual Indigenous Art Exhibit in 1984 at the Woodland Cultural Center in Brantford, Ontario, Canada. And Michael grew up in Algonquin, Michigan, which is between Detroit and Post Huron, close to Lake St. Clair. Those are the traditional lands of the Anishinaabeg, called the Chippewa by the British and later Americans. And this one deeply struck me on the conveyance of the experience of the what Rosicrucians would call the cosmic and cosmic consciousness. When I use the term cosmic, I'm referring to the cosmos as a whole, but also the universal intelligence back of the cosmos that's guiding it for its system and order, and also all the natural and spiritual laws that one learns on the mystical path, and particularly in the weekly Rosicrucian lessons. I think you'll find as you just look into the eyes of this indigenous elder that's the cosmic face, you get a sense of it coming out from the cosmos, but also returning back into the cosmos. And you see in the lower right, similar to our Milky Way galaxy, there's a spiraling galaxy, and there's various suggestions of the stars and heavenly bodies. And the eyes, has been said by the French philosopher René Descartes, the windows of the soul. We get a very strong sense of that here. Also, someone who's lived an outdoor life. You see the lines on their face. It reminds me some of my elders that were born in the 19th century, some grandparents and great aunt uncles that had grown up on farms, and some of them had worked their lives on the farms. You could see they had spent their life outdoors, but also gives you a sense those lines on the face also are like great rivers on the globe of the earth. There's similar geometry and patterns there. So I'm going to say a little bit more about cosmic consciousness, and then we're going to have some more descriptions of different forms of consciousness, and then we'll lead into our exercise. Sometimes you'll hear the term the cosmic sense. And I particularly left the slide ups because it's very conducive to engendering the state of the cosmic sense or the state of cosmic consciousness. Essentially, they're the same term. The cosmic sense means that you're sensing the cosmic, that universal intelligence back of the cosmos. Um, Rosicrucians also use the term master within or divine within. It is like our true nature and guide in life. And I think you get a strong sense of that in looking at this work. And as we move into a deeper and deeper appreciation of cosmic consciousness, we have an increasing rapport with our true nature, our divine nature. And as I mentioned earlier, a central purpose of the Rosicrucian studies is to draw us into this state of evolution and thereby increase our capacity to be of service, to assist others to likewise evolve or mature. And this matter is seen as a great underlying process of maturation and evolution of all human and sentient beings in the cosmos. In this sense, we're called to be co-workers with the divine and further bringing this conscious awareness into the cosmos, the great temple of the divine. And striking even a brief interlude or contact with the cosmic consciousness provides a great impetus for creative and constructive work, inspiring direction for our life from then on. Now, one may wonder, well, have I experienced this cosmic consciousness or not, and why should I? I can mention that the term is one that has a great general applicability. The Rosicrucian Order is not a religion. So if one has a chosen religion, it helps us greatly in understanding it more. The term cosmic consciousness has equivalents in various spiritual traditions of the world. For example, the term heaven or the kingdom of heaven, where the kingdom of heaven is within, spoken of by the Master Jesus in Christianity, for example, or nirvana in Hinduism, also in Hinduism, the Brahmic splendor. Also, for example, speaking in the area that I live in, I know some of you are in Quebec as well. If you think of the Haudenosaunee, also known as the Iroquois by the French, and their traditional lands in Ontario and Quebec and the United States, including the Finger Lake District. Their peacemaker had the cosmic sense and gave them their special teachings. I remember speaking with an elder who's Haudenosaunee, and I asked him, what would be the equivalent in for the term cosmic consciousness, and she said the good mind that the peacemaker spoke of. There's other terms that have been used in various spiritual traditions of the cosmic consciousness. So in a way, it's something we're very familiar with. And I think if you think about some of the most uplifting experiences you've had in your life, very deep experiences that uplifted you, drew you to the spiritual path, I think you'll find those are experiences of cosmic consciousness. And it's true, there's different degrees and different strengths of them. Let me, in that regard, show you a slide to explain this a little more. It's a diagram. This is essentially what's referred to as the Rosicrucian schematic diagram of mental processes. In our weekly lessons, we get a very detailed diagram of this with extensive explanation and exercises. And this is something that we see before us we're very used to. I'm presenting the diagram in certain essential elements. We're very used to the external world in a certain sense. We take it in with our 5 physical senses. It's interesting, though, that some cultures have refer to different senses and have different numbers on ones. They also conclude our sense of balance, our sense of direction, for example. We take in sense stimuli from the outer world, like you're hearing my voice right now. And on our objective consciousness, it'll begin the interpretation and reception of that. Then we have our subjective consciousness. And also think there's the subjective mind and there's the objective mind, where there's reasoning done. Could be like inductive or deductive reasoning. The deductive reasoning is done in mathematics, for example, or the inductive reasoning is done in science, going from experiments and particular observations to more general conclusions, whereas the deductive reasoning in mathematics will go from axioms or things that are givens to argue through logic universal principles. Also in the subjective consciousness, we have our short-term memory. There's the interpretation of our what we received from our senses, in the hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling, sight, for example. I know some of us have some of these senses more developed than others, or we may find that if our sight is reduced, that our hearing gets intensified and so forth. Also, that subjective consciousness, though, also receives impressions from within. So it's taking impressions both, it's like a screen that takes impressions from both sides, on the external on one side and then the inner world on the other side where the subconscious is. And there's been a lot of interest in the subconscious, using that term, or the subconscious mind, particularly through depth psychologists such as Carl Jung, but mystics and philosophers down through the ages have used different terms, but are aware of all these things I'm mentioning to you. Subconscious, of course, is the place where our dreams take place, and then they come up to the subjective consciousness. And it's good if you're doing a dream diary. It can be very helpful to write them down as soon as you are aware of them, to keep those impressions. We also are very deep-seated emotions are in the subconscious. Just to give you some general sense of what's going on here. But back of the subconscious mind is the cosmic mind. In a way, it infuses all these forms of consciousness. That's the cosmic consciousness. It infuses all of them. Each cell in our body has a consciousness, and it works together as unity, form the wisdom of our body. In a way, our body and its individual cells is like humanity. Each of us is like a great cell in the whole body of humanity. And the experience of the cosmic consciousness, it's back of the subconscious, it's back of the subjective consciousness, back of the objective consciousness, gives us an actual firsthand experience of that. And we're going to do an exercise and meditation soon on this matter. You'll see over on the left, there's various things referred to as imagery and focused thought. There's various Rosicrucian lessons to do with, for example, the art of visualization, and how we can visualize things in our mind and release them into the subconscious, and then work on concentrating, fulfilling them. What we visualized in the imagery based on the subjective consciousness is something that's conducive and in good conscience. We can then release it, and it will form a thought form that we can then work on fulfilling through its manifestation in the cosmic. As one of the various practical applications of these different levels or senses of consciousness. And when we do meditation, one is actually moving from the objective consciousness quickly. For example, close one's eyes, may have some imagery that one uses. For example, may visualize being on a mountaintop or an inspiring place in nature, and then gradually let that impression go into the subconscious and dwell in silence. As one goes deeper and deeper, it gets more and more centered into this cosmic mind. This cosmic mind unites all of us, just like the cells in our body unites our entire body. And we can start to experience like the cosmic mind experiences. And that greatly enriches and matures us. Of course, so we'll soon have our exercise, but is there anything you'd like to ask about, or is anyone asking anything in the
Actually,
chat?
yeah, I mean, I hate having to interrupt because you're going into very, very deep territory. But I'm interested in what well, first of all, you'd mentioned, I'm not sure if I understood correctly, but do you have Indigenous background? I think, did I hear that?
Not myself, but I've been very interested in Indigenous
Okay.
cultures, and I've talked at various times with Indigenous elders, for example.
Okay.
And
Can we see you? We can't see you.
okay, let me.
Yeah.
Okay, I see myself up in the corner, but let me stop the
Oh,
share.
okay. There you go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So you were saying that you have an interest in this for a long time?
Yes, but yes, and part of the reason I mentioned the Indigenous culture and showed that work of art is that the things I'm speaking about tonight, they're in all cultures.
Okay.
They're the wisdom traditions of all. The Rosicrucian teachings help give one's detailed tools and exercises and laws and principles to more deeply appreciate one's culture, whether it's indigenous or it's Caribbean, African, European, or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Because these things in a way are universal, like the
Okay.
law of gravitation, for example. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. And also, another thing that you mentioned that I found very interesting, you were saying how different indigenous groups, and it doesn't have to be, let's say, for example, like indigenous in terms of Canada, but different groups have different ideas of senses. And I found that very interesting because we have the senses that we know, like the taste, smell, hearing, talking, all
Yes.
that. And yet, I've heard, for example, in certain cultures, for example, in the rainforest, different indigenous cultures there, they take for granted that they can communicate telepathically. They
Yes.
communicate through dreams. And so
Yes.
would you say that that's also one of these senses? And I want to see what you have to say about that, because while they are different cultures, look upon the idea of telepathy as the same kind of sense as, let's say, seeing, it's not that we can't do it here in the West. It's just that we are not in the paradigm. It's not in our paradigm. You know what I mean? To actually accept that and say, okay, yes, it's true. We still sort of look upon it as some sort of like woo woo type of strange thing. I don't know if you want to sort
Yeah.
of get, opinion on that.
Yeah. I know what you mean. That's a relatively
You know?
recent development, even in the Western history, one
Yeah.
of the more recent centuries. But I can tell you, for example, many of the exercises of the Rosicrucian Order have to do with developing the psychic senses. So the psychic sight, the psychic hearing, psychic smelling, psychic tasting,
Like the
psychic feeling.
clairs, you know.
A lot of these things we have well developed as children, but told that they're not told that they're not real. You must be purely imagining them. But
Exactly.
no, I mean these things can be developed, and part of the Rosicrucian teachings are to bring these back. And these are highly related to what Rosicrucians refer to as the psychic centers in the body. They're different than the what's referred to often in other traditions, particularly in the East, the chakras. But you can develop the pineal gland, for example, in the center of the head. The traditional Rosicrucian René Descartes talked about the pineal gland. We have exercises for developing the pineal gland. It's an endocrine gland, it's excretions, that's true, but it also has a psychic counterpart at a higher rate of vibration, what Rosicrucians would call the cosmic keyboard, higher octaves that you're talking about. So yeah, well, there's a rich field of stimuli that we need to come back into, become more aware of and directing it. And in terms of cultural constructions, it's interesting, and this ties in with the cosmic consciousness, is that we have this conception often of time being linear, but also some cultures time being cyclical.
Yes.
And it's good to have an experience of both of those. We're experiencing that very richly now with I was out walking today, seeing the beautiful line of maple trees in red. In a way, that helped attune me with the cosmic consciousness, just seeing the beauty of that. But time is cyclical, but also linear. But also some culture, like often in the West, you'll thought about, well, time is forward ahead, but for some cultures, it's behind you because you can't see the future. It's behind you. You
Yeah.
can see our past. It's in front of us. So these things, they actually help give as you say, a paradigm shift or a shift in understanding. One of the experiences of cosmic consciousness is a transcending of time. You experience all things now, eternity now, and you're no longer. So I'll get into this more. It really greatly changes your understanding, but matures you,
Yeah.
evolves you.
Absolutely. And I also want to sort of point out a couple of things here, because you're right. A lot of times as children, when people have done experiments with children, they say children have very, very, very high levels of psychic ability. And it's just sort of like, tamped down and beaten out of them by the time they turn 5. It's between, let's say, I think by the time like 5 or 7, it starts to sort of go on the wane. And by the time they're 12, that's it, it's out. Because by that point, you're probably entering into high school, and then, that kind of stuff is just a bit too strange. However, what I've noticed with people, especially different guests that we've had on the show, we've noticed that obviously from a particular age, let's say if you're a Gen Xer like myself, proud, but like if you're a Gen Xer or Boomer, anything before that was definitely seen as absolutely, this is no good, and these are things to be concerned about, and it's the devil and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people that have been on this show have talked about that, how they've been told that
Yes.
you're a work of the devil, you're going to hell, and all that jazz. What I think is interesting now, and I've often mentioned, is that when I look at people who are, let's say, 10, maybe 15 years younger than me, and they're having children for the first time, these parents are very different. These parents are sending their kids to different types of schools, like the kind of schools that they want their children to just naturally develop, and they want their kids to just be very, very free to express themselves, and they don't have the same kind of draconian, Victorian type of approach. And in some ways, when we talk about psychic abilities, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I feel that it makes me uncomfortable, because it seems to me that we're sort of sectioning it apart. And I think what we should be doing right now is integrating it, because it's who
Yes.
we are. I'm not going to
Yes.
turn around and say, well, because I have brown eyes and I'm going to be sectioned off. No, I have eyes. And and you may have blue eyes, I have brown eyes, but we have eyes, and we express ourselves differently through a color of our eyes, but at the same time we can still see. And I think that there's going to be a point in time where it's no longer going to be psychic ability, because it's so weird and strange out there. It's just going to be an ability. And I
Oh,
go
yes.
back to
Yes.
that idea of the people living in a rainforest who just see it as an ability. I don't think they go around and say, oh my God, that person's psychic, or, I don't think
Yes.
so. And especially going back to the idea of cyclical time, for example, with the Incas, and they talk about the calendar, the long count calendars and all that. That's also cyclical in that sense. I think we were sort of
Yeah.
seeing,
Yes.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
very much so.
Yeah.
And tied in, like with the Rosicrucian tradition, like works for a very uh, balanced development. Well, it's a unity, the cosmic consciousness that's going through all of it. But to develop things, sometimes we'll name them, and we'll work focus on them. But it's ultimately, you have that balanced development, so that you want to have the reasoning well developed. You want to have the emotional capacity well developed. You want to have the senses well developed to the extent you can, and the same with the psychic senses. And then ultimately, there's the, the, the mystical experience, which really unites all these things together as a unity. And the, these things are at the heart of the Western tradition. We're just emphasizing them more, and that needs to be
Yeah.
more brought out. We could do our meditation and mystical exercise now, if you'd like.
Sure. Before we do, can I just ask one quick question? I have a
Yeah.
question here from Linda Reinhardt. Linda says, is energy reading part of the skills? I'm thinking she's referring to some of the skills that we're talking about. Is energy reading a part of the skills? Do you have a comment
Yes,
on that?
yes, yes, very much so, very much so. And I mean, there's with meditation and in general, and also, for example, Rosicrucian exercises that are done. There's an increased sensitivity to a wide range of energies, and for example, development of sensing the aura can be of oneself and others, both in a psychic sight sense, but also through other means as well. But yes, things along those lines. That's something very much involved. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I have just one last question. I have a question here
Sure.
from Bast. The question is, should we not be writing down bad dreams, only positive or neutral ones?
Well, that's a great question. I think each per you can see what's right for you, but I would say that they're all they're I think you may find that they're all informative in one form or another. I know at first it can be, when we have certain challenging experiences in our life, um, we we may want to shy away from them, but if we can, and feel safe about it, embrace them, they'll have a life-giving lesson. So those ones that are very challenging, I think ultimately there'll be something, a great joy that will come from them. So I think that's okay, but do what you feel you're ready to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, I have the singing bowl here, so if you want, I can do a couple of chimes, and then
Okay.
we can get into. Is there any visual cues that we need here? Is there like a visual slide, or we're just going to be doing a straight?
What I'll do is I'll put up the cosmic face, though we'll
Okay.
be closing our eyes for much of the time.
Okay.
I'll put the cosmic face back up. So let me
Okay. No
just
problem.
share, Share again here.
Okay. And so we'll do about 3 chimes, and then I will let Dr. McCaig guide us through this meditation. And we'll see you on the other side.
Crystal, I'm not hearing the chimes.
Oh, no?
No.
Okay. Let's just see. Let's try that again. Um, I don't think, unfortunately, I think my sound might be a little bit out, but I'll let you just get started. I'm so sorry.
All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
I think we've had some time to be still, and I invite you to take some time to look again at the cosmic face painting now that we've discussed different senses of consciousness and the cosmic consciousness. Particularly, we'll gaze into the eyes of the face before us. In a way, we're looking at ourselves. I invite you now to close your eyes, be comfortable in your chair, or if you're lying down, however you're situated, and just let go of the cares of the day, turning more and more inward. For a while, let's focus on our breath, doing what Rosicrucians refer to as neutral breathing, either holding our inhalation or holding our exhalation. Let's just enjoy the gentle rhythm of the breath. Somewhat like being by a great ocean or lake shore, with waves lapping in, each incoming and outgoing breath. I invite you to breathe a little deeper than usual if it's comfortable for you. Take in even more of the vitality or the life force, the vital life force that's in the air to charge our system, mind, body, and whole nature. Breathing is a very simple act, but it's one to master in our life for our well-being and health. Even in some spiritual traditions, talk about a word going forth or a great breath going forth to create the universe. Away with our breath now, we're recreating ourselves, our own mini universe, the microcosm. And if it's comfortable for you, I invite you to also to extend your exhalation longer than your inhalation. That extended exhalation is something wonderful automatically happen without us even trying. It's a relaxation response. With each extended exhalation, there's a building or cumulative effect of increased relaxation, calmness, tranquility, equanimity, imperturbability. Just enjoy some silence together. May feel the increased relaxation with each outgoing breath. With each incoming breath, feel that vitality of the life force, the increased presence, the divine within us. This mystical exercise of concentrating on our breath is one of the forms of meditation taught through the Rosicrucian Order AMORC. Now move into a related form of meditation. It'll be all part of our mystical exercise and meditation period overall. We're going to apply instructions from the key Rosicrucian meditation booklet entitled Liber 777 to rise up to the celestial sanctum, our personal sacred space. And there's information about this booklet in the resources that you've received. I invite you to say with me now the following prayer and invocation. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body, that I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and in worthiness. So mote it be. So mote it be is a traditional phrase of the Rosicrucians to be. So be it in truth. So it is manifested. This time, I invite you to rise up into the cosmic with me. We'll experience the cosmic sense, the consciousness of the cosmic. I invite you to use all your inner psychic abilities and imaginative capacity to visualize yourself rising up from the home, dwelling, building, or office where you are, up over your neighborhood, rising faster and faster, up over your geographic area, your town or city, even up over the state or province where you dwell, rising faster and faster, enjoying the exhilaration of the ascent. Now up over your great nation or country. You can see down below the various landforms, the deserts, the lakes, the rivers, the seas, the oceans, the fields, whatever is applicable, the great weather systems. Let's continue to rise up higher and higher, faster and faster. And see now the continent where we dwell, the hemisphere where we dwell on Earth. And now the entire beautiful blue jewel of the Earth, rotating about its axis, with a satellite, the moon, revolving about it. Let us look up and see our solar system, beautiful elliptical orbits of the planets, huge planet, Jupiter, the wondrous rings of Saturn, beautiful local star, the great fiery ball of the sun. Let us continue to rise higher and higher beyond our solar system, beyond myriad stars and stellar phenomena like quasars and pulsars, even black holes helping balance our universe, nebula, rogue planets and asteroids and comets. Let's speed all by them, enjoying the beauty of it all, the great vibrations of the cosmos, the great harmony of the sphere spoken by ancient philosophers and mystics down through the ages. Let's pass out now from the great arm of the Milky Way galaxy where we dwell and look back on our home, the Milky Way galaxy, and see it rotating about its great center. And then let us look up and see other galaxies and stars and go faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light as we transcend space and time now and move from what's traditionally called the finite plane to the infinite plane. More and more into the consciousness of the cosmic consciousness. Speeding by galaxies, nebula, the great cosmic web connecting stars and galaxies, even clusters of galaxies. Enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent, feeling of upliftment. As we continue to rise faster and faster, you may sense that the entire cosmos is about you, rotating about a great cosmic axis. This cosmos as a macrocosm mirrors us as a microcosm. Through the law of correspondence, as above, so below. As you sense the presence of that cosmic axis and the stupendous action of the universe about it, speed towards the midpoint of that cosmic axis, to the very center of the cosmos. When you reach that midpoint, slow up and just look and sense all about you. The stupendous harmony and order of the cosmos and the universal intelligence back of it, forming the cosmic. As we take in this vastness, become more and more moving from self-consciousness into cosmic consciousness, consciousness of the whole. Let us dwell here a while at the center of our being, at the center of the cosmos in silence, and feel all there is to feel. On this occasion, I invite you to take as your personal celestial sanctum the temple of the divine, the cosmos all about you. The awe it helps bring about helps attune us with the cosmic. Experience the cosmic consciousness. Let us turn inward even more to the vastness within. Let us surrender. Let us let go. Tune with the cosmic mind. Let us experience as the cosmic mind experiences. You may find it helpful to picture your mind expanding throughout the cosmos. Fill the cosmos. Being everywhere at once. Senses the cosmic mind senses. Be the cosmic mind. Assume the cosmic mind now. Just continue to let go. Surrender to the divine within. Be the cosmic mind. Before we conclude our period of meditation, a mystical exercise, I invite you to join me with me in another spiritual operation. It's part of the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC. Let us conduct a period of healing, sending of metaphysical aid, to use a term of the Rosicrucians. What that means is we'll radiate love and well-being to all those you know who are in need, guidance, and healing. And we'll radiate love and well-being to all persons who've petitioned the Rosicrucian Order AMORC for guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all sentient beings throughout the cosmos who are in need of guidance and healing. I invite you now, as you assume the cosmic mind, to radiate love and well-being throughout the cosmos, reaching all in need. Reminded that the cosmic conscious state is one of all knowingness, all lovingness. Just radiate the love and well-being like a great light filling the cosmos. You may wish to feel it flowing out with a tremendous rate, just like we rose up to the heights of the celestial sanctum. Tremendous rapidity. Feel the exhilaration of the flow of love and well-being from the depths of your being to all in need. I think you'll find at a certain point you no longer need to make any conscious effort for the flow of the love and well-being. And it'll even speed up, and you'll know you're reaching those in need. When that happens, just continue to surrender. The radiations of love and well-being, and being at one with the cosmic. Soon we'll formally close our period of sending metaphysical aid, but we'll continue our meditation period a while longer. Through this healing period, I invite you to say with me, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done. So mote it be. Now let us continue to meditate, feel all there is to feel. Having applied the law of cosmic attunement, the law of assumption, the law of silence, the law of service, I invite you now to apply the law of gratitude, which will help intensify our experience of the cosmic consciousness and our cosmic attunement. You may wish at this time to express our thanks and gratitude to all those who have taught us well, to all those who have loved us well, to all those who have sacrificed well on our behalf. We can sense we're reaching them with our gratitude and love as they so gave to us. Let us dwell a while longer now, experiencing the cosmic consciousness, our consciousness of the entire cosmos and the universal intelligence back of it. This is our birthright. In a way, it's who we truly are and always have been and will be. Our source of great guidance in life. Our source of great repair and healing, making whole for ourselves and others. At one with the one now. Soon we'll formally conclude our period of contact with the celestial sanctum and begin our descent. I invite you now, great inner spiritual energy and great rapidity, speed past the clusters of galaxies. We went in our ascent. We descend past the myriad stars and stellar phenomena, and nebula, a wondrous cosmic web connecting the stars and planet and solar system. Enjoying the music and harmony of the spheres as we make our descent, carrying with us the consciousness of the cosmic, now and always, ever with us. Enjoy the beauty and wonder and harmony of it all. The outer cosmos, the macrocosm mirroring our microcosm, is one continuum, one unity. You may see in the distance now the Milky Way galaxy with its great spiraling arms, inviting our return home, our place of learning. Let us plunge back into the great arm where we dwell, past the myriad stars, nebula, quasars and pulsars, comets and asteroids and rogue planets and planets. You'll see in the distance the solar system, the great fiery ball of the sun, the beautiful blue jewel of the earth. Let us return back to the hemisphere where we left off. The continent where we dwell, our great nation or country, our province or state, our county, our local geographic area, our town or city, and our neighborhood. Before we formally conclude this period of meditation, let us take with us this cosmic attunement as a way of life, their birthright. The radiations of healing that were sent forth from us will continue as part of our mission in life. And invite with you to say with me the following closing prayer and invocation. May the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self, the celestial sanctum. So mote it be. And let us continue to descend on our home or dwelling, our office or building where we left off, and back however we're situated, lying down or seated, feeling remade, re-energized, rested, reintegrated, feeling more competent, more alive, more fully ourselves. And when you're ready, you may wish to open your eyes and stretch your arms and your fingers and your legs. And we'll continue with the presentation. Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay, that was amazing. That was great. It's weird because people can hear the chimes. I think it's just more because I think here with with the Zoom setting that we're using,
Okay.
it should be on now. Can you hear that?
I hear it now. Thank
Okay,
you.
you hear it now. Okay, so I should have had it on, but we had it on for our audience, so they
Great.
heard it. So we concluded with a couple of chimes, and now we're all refreshed and ready to go. So
Great.
we'll do that.
Great. Okay, that's great there, hearing it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I maybe one little difference now is I can, okay, that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll continue to talk about cosmic consciousness.
Mhm.
I'm hearing my voice in the background a little bit.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, just sort of no. Did you want to try that again? Because we've been having some issues
Okay.
with Facebook, with YouTube.
Okay.
How's it now?
So we're going to talk about the 5 stages of uh, mystical unfoldment. That seems fine. Thank you, Crystal. And I'll relate this, and you'll see this slide before you, talking about different phases. And you see I've depicted there a wave or vibration, just like we talked about the entire cosmos is manifesting through vibration. We know that from the modern physics, but essentially we knew that since ancient times, for example, through the Pythagoreans and their experiments and tests with the monochord or the stretch chord and the deep mathematical appreciation of music. Our life, in a way, follows great wave-like actions. And you notice I have 5 phases here: awakening, purgation or self-discipline, and illumination, and dark night of the soul or obscure night, and then mystical union. These all have an intimate relationship with of those different forms of consciousness we've been talking about, and particularly cosmic consciousness. various mystics over the ages, such as Hildegard of Bingen, Teresa of Avila, the Neoplatonists, Plotinus, um, John of the Cross, for example, in his poetry, speaks of these stages. You may know his work on the dark night of the soul, for example, very poignant and beautiful and uplifting work that helps attune us with the cosmic. You may find that in your life there was a particular period of an awakening. Now, I'm going to speak of this particularly in regard to spiritual awakening, but it could be an awakening to a new talent, a new skill that you had very early on in your life or late in your life. But in spiritual awakening, what drew you to a spiritual path? There's a period of awakening, a new idealism is instilled. And it may have been very early on in your life or later on. And then you started working very detailed way uh, to learn about life, to get answers more about life, have a whole new perspective on life. And that awakening can also include a taste of the cosmic consciousness. Even a brief taste can go a long way and be a touchstone experience for the rest of our life. Then sometimes we're surprised after that awakening and that upliftment. There's a period where we realize that idealism that was instilled has to be put much more in practice. And there has to be a purging, just like we purged ourselves when we went up and came down from the heights of the celestial sanctum. It's also the instilling of self-discipline, just like in any task. We're learning mathematics or a musical instrument, culinary arts, or whatever it is. There's a point where one has to be very self-disciplined and get training and know how to do it and to develop the virtues. And that's part of the purging, part of the purification. The spiritual path, nothing of great value is let go of. But we have to be willing to let go of things that are no longer serving us well, or no longer have that deep inner purity that we experience from the divine within when we meditate. After that period of training, we come into a period of illumination. And this is where that cosmic sense or the cosmic consciousness can be experienced even more strongly. And we see what we experienced in the awakening, but now we see far more. Just like we we're at the heights of the celestial sanctum, taking in the entire cosmos, we also take in a greater, more mature perspective on life. Mystics and spiritual philosophers down through the ages have referred to these. Sometimes they give different numbers than 5, sometimes 4, and so forth. There's different terms in the various languages. That very uplifting experience of illumination transforms us in a variety of ways. Like with the awakening, more hidden talents or latent talents come out. People are often surprised in how we've changed, how we are much more healing presence, much more calm presence. After that, though, we may be surprised that we feel like we've got plunged into a dark night of the soul or obscure night. We may outwardly feel like we've lost all that heightened awareness, all that deep sense of well-being. You notice at the top of the slide, I put unity because in awakening illumination, there's a great sense of unity. But with purgation and self-discipline and the dark night of the soul, there's more a sense of duality, of seeming good and evil. Things are in contrast to each other. We don't sense that deep sense of unity. But it's good to be aware that after that heightened illuminative experience, that there's a greater period of purging that we're in the obscure night, and we have our illuminative experiences as touchstone experiences to help be a deep foundation to guide us through this greater period of cleansing and maturing. If we have that, we'll know that things will work out well. And there's, as is often referred to colloquially, as the light at the end of the tunnel. It's coming, even if one won't see it yet. Then gradually, as the golden dawn comes, we come into what mystics have called union, or the mystical union. And here one has even greater rapport with the cosmic. In fact, there's a continual rapport. One can easily draw on that deep mystical experience that we went into in our meditation period. And one can draw on that quickly and rapidly and has it more as a way of life. That divine within or the master within now is truly fully identified with. Traditionally, this has sometimes been described by um, in earlier times when there was blacksmith shops where the blacksmith was heating up a hot iron. We're like the iron, and now we've been increasingly heated up as we go through these different stages. Our outer nature has been transformed. We still have that individual consciousness, but it's now much more guided by the cosmic consciousness that we're fully identified with. Another analogy that's sometimes used, if you can think of a sponge, and our outer nature is like a sponge. We keep the individuality of the sponge, but now we've soaked up water, like we've soaked up that cosmic attunement, that divine experience, that joy, that deep understanding. And it's transformed this sponge, yes, just like the heated up iron was transformed, but they still keep the qualities of the iron and the sponge, like our individuality. In this regard, I'll few more things to show before we conclude. But is there anyone like to ask a question, Crystal, or something you'd like to comment on this
Well,
matter?
you know what? It's so interesting. I know a lot of people are saying that they really enjoyed the meditation, and I have to be honest. I find your voice has a certain timbre to it that I'm taken
Oh
off into
yes,
another place altogether. So it's just your
yeah.
voice alone. That's really amazing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I greatly appreciate your voice and attunement. You know,
Thank you.
one of um, in a way, one of the psychologists I work with, who's a
Hmm.
lifelong meditator, he does counseling. He emphasizes what's referred to as therapeutic alliance. That
Okay.
not only when he counsels, but whenever in contact with people,
Hmm.
not for our self-aggrandizement,
Hmm.
but in our all humility. Let's see if we can have a healing effect on others, and let's be receptive to the healing effect they're having, just like you and everybody with us are having on each
Exactly.
other. Yeah, and
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just wanted to I just wanted to just sort of quickly go over some of the things in the slide here. So
okay,
if you, because you're mentioning here in the slide, so I want to make sure, because I think that people are looking at this, and in case they're looking at it and they just joined us. So we have the unity aspect of the awakening, illumination, mystical union. And I think what's happening for a lot of people, especially when I have started this group and I have new members that are joining, a lot of people are talking about the dark night of the soul, or the purgation, the self discipline, the duality. And it
yes,
seems that a lot of people are going through that right now. Like some people are a little bit more advanced, some people a little bit less. Everybody's at their own pace upon the path. Did you want to just quickly give us a little bit more of an interpretation of the dark night of the soul in regards to how it's seen through the Rosicrucian
yes,
Order? And if we could see
sure.
you too, we'd love to see your lovely face.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
okay
just
not to
because
see
I
the
think it's
slide.
some people would like to sort of have a better understanding and just sort of see
Okay,
how you look at it.
okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Uh, One thing I wanted to mention about this, and it's important, that often in life when we've had uplifting experiences and then some challenge comes up, and you
Yeah.
say, "Oh, why did this have to happen? Why couldn't I?" But if we embrace it, or it's a lesson. You see, part of the contrast here, and this uh, relates to various traditional spiritual stories, is part of the intensity of the dark night of the soul is not what it is in itself, but it just seems such a strong contrast to the illumination.
Hmm.
And it's something like going outside. You've been in a darker room for a while, and you go out on a bright sunny day, and it could be in the summer, and wow, it's just like I'm great. It's great I'm out in the light, but this was a
It's
lot of brightness
intense.
at once, and it can seem dark, even though you had that illuminative experience. It
Hmm.
can seem bright. You're in the darkness. So part of it's that contrast that you had with illumination, but it's it's good to keep in mind that illuminative experiences, the great sense of upliftment, the all lovingness, a tremendous sense of knowledge and well-being. Go back, just keep drawing that back. I know it's a challenge when one's in difficult challenge or difficult experiences, but realize it's more of the outer nature, that deeper inner part of ourselves. It knows no disease.
Hmm.
It knows no disharmony. It's our outer nature that needs to get flooded like that, just like the sponge soaking up the water or the iron being heated up by the fire. So we've got and realize, we've gone through the purgation, the self-discipline period. Again, the dark night of the soul is an intensified time to get purified, to be disciplined, to stay true to oneself, the great signposts that one had. Our deepest foundation in life are deep these deep spiritual mystical experiences that they give us. They are our foundation. They're connecting us with that divine within, of the cosmic. Just always keep that as your foundation. It's true during the darkening of the soul when we feel like I've just had, I've lost my foundation. It's there. Just work to recall it. I know it's challenging. You may feel like, how is my life going to get back together again? Pieces are scattered, but it will come back in a greater and new way. You see, with the going from the awakening to the illumination of the mystical union, there's a teaching, increasing maturity all the way along on that. One of the things it's really good is with, for example, whatever spiritual path you're on, there'll be certain spiritual laws and principles that I mentioned. I mentioned the Rosicrucian laws and principles that I mentioned. This is a great time to keep applying them, not let go of them. They do work. We've seen them work already. Also, in any times, even if you're a dark night of the soul, I often have to remind myself when challenging things come, and sometimes several things come together at the same time that are rather challenging, is that say, okay, often the challenges will appear, things that hardly stress us, feel like at first we may feel like catastrophized, or we feel like, oh, I've never experienced anything like this before. But often we take a little time, turn inward a little more. Okay, this is actually a variation on a theme, or I've experienced some things that in part relate to this. I got through it. I know how some things, how I did it. And if you're feeling well now, you can also keep reminding yourself, okay, I got here. I'm okay. I did go through this. Things come up again. I can take it. And also, as we are able to pass through these experiences, we're more able to help others pass through them and be a healing force for them.
Yeah.
We could have all present. I could keep going, but those are some things.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. And, I think that without painting everybody with a big fat brush, the thing is that I think now more than ever, I mean, look, people have been going through problems for a time, millennia, but I think that now somehow, and maybe you can just sort of give me your opinion on it, but somehow I feel that this time is different. It sounds kind of like very cliche, but it seems that now is different because it seems that, yes, we're all going through stuff,
Yes.
but somehow, and people out there, send put something in the live chat if you have an opinion on this. But I just feel that because of where we are in humanity, in the history of humanity right now, we're all, like I said, we've all been through stuff, but somehow, like I said, it's different because it seems that it's a much more global thing. And I know sometimes it's very easy to say, oh, it's just me and I'm going through hell, or I'm going through this divorce, or I'm person's losing their job, or the person's having a health issue, or this, that, the other. And it's very easy to feel alone, and without beating it down too much, but at the same time we also have the ego, and the ego has a tendency to say, well, oh, it's just me and poor me and all that kind of stuff. But I think that one of the things that I like to look at is the way of just sort of pulling out a bit and just looking at it. And it's, yes, sometimes you feel, why is this happening? I don't get it. Like, I do my best. Why am I going through all this shit? What's happening? But at the same time, I sort of say to myself, okay, let me look at it, because oftentimes when you hear people going through, I went through XYZ and no, when they look back on it, they're like, oh my God, thank God I went through all that, because I got rid of that partner who wasn't serving me. I got rid of that job, or, I finally took care of my health and da. So there's definitely a positive as opposed to a negative. You know what I mean? Am I right?
Very much so. Oh, very much so. I mean, when we let go of being who we're not, tremendous amount of energy is released.
Yes.
And we get freed up. And one of the things, Rose, there's a bunch of points you cover. I'll respond to them. But one of the things that Rosicrucian tradition emphasizes, and is that you recall that Rosicrucian schematic diagram, mental processes, we have the subconscious. Our habits are like laws in our subconscious, and a lot of these things we're purging and self-discipline and obscure night is we're learning that there are laws in our subconscious we have to replace with more healthy, harmonious ones. They may have served us earlier in our life. They may have come about through certain difficult experiences or traumatic experiences, but replace them with new laws of the conscious that are much more life affirming. That helps us move us into illumination, into the mystical union. But it's true, there's a Rosicrucian poet from the early 20th century, Ella Wheeler Wilcox, and she said to the effect, laugh and the world laughs with you, and you cry alone.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, there's the experience of when we're in that more uplifted state, we can more have a sense of reaching out more. But it's true when we're sadder, we often feel like we're closing down. We're coming down. But it's also true, as you say, and we spoke of earlier. Our body, our physical body is all these cells, humanity, and we're a collection of those as our holy temple that our master within dwells in. But humanity as a whole is like one great body, and it's true. It's learning and growing and going through these cosmic phases of awakening, purgation, illumination, dark night of the soul, and union as one great body. And yeah, we're experiencing that now, and
Mm-hmm.
it's is just like with the purgation period, the dark night of the soul, is that meditation helps us to be more optimistic, more creative, to see these three things through their life embracing lessons, and the great joy that can come out of them, rising like a phoenix from the ashes.
Yeah, yeah. And I think if I may add just a little side note there, I think that meditation also anchors us in the storm because there's a whole big
Yes,
storm of stuff like swell and all this craziness that's going on around us in the world today. And we look at the news, and well, we shouldn't, but I mean, we look at what's happening around us and we think, my God, what's happening? It's getting worse. I thought it was going to get better. But it's similar to the dark night of the soul for the personal. We have the dark night of the soul for the whole humanity. And I think that if I may be so bold, that's part of the cosmic consciousness that we're having to get rid of all this stuff, sort of like what you're saying, and go through all this hellfire. And it's helping us as a humanity reach that cosmic level. You know what I mean?
yes,
And I
yes,
think that the meditation anchors us while like imagine there's this tornado going through and you just have this tree that's there and it's just like, yeah, some trees get uprooted, but you do have some trees that just stay put, a rock.
hmm
And I think that that's where we should be using our meditation because we are
yes,
all going through it together.
yes,
And
very much so.
the hope is that if we stick together we can all go into this. I think that's where that golden age is coming,
Yes,
is, you know what I mean?
yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe I'll put up a slide and we'll follow up on the
Sure.
point you just mentioned,
Okay.
and that will. So here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this is a painting by the Rosicrucian artist of the 20th century, Leopold de Pastel's. It's about the pilgrim or the spiritual seeker on the path, and you can see there's some dark valleys to go through, but in the distance there's that light. In a way, this is these beautiful tones of blue
Mm-hmm.
help attune us with the cosmic, but it also recognizes the challenges that we've got to go through. And part of the beauty of the cosmic consciousness experience is that it gives us that deep sense of connection, not only philosophically in an intellectual sense, but as a lived, astonishing experience. That's the way we are, and that's part of what we're learning through these challenges. And in terms of the dark night of the soul, I think you'll see now another one of Leopold de Pastel's paintings in his series on the new age. You can see oneself out here on this cliff edge and the precipice. And there's various challenges of life. There's the lightning, there's the wind. I'll show you a black and white version of it here too. Person's facing the challenges and the great chasm. How am I going to get past into the light? And he's used his own experiences to help encourage us, to make the passage. Ultimately, moving towards another work of his called Aspiration, which has a lot to do with the awakening, illumination, and mystical union stage. It was on a Rosicrucian Digest publication cover from January 1984. I'll zoom in on it because this has a lot to do with
Oh, look at
the
that.
meaning and purpose of life. Yes, it's a way
Oh.
of, it's like the cosmic consciousness experience, but
Mm-hmm.
also that experiencing that divinity within. You see
Yeah, the
we've
person
risen
there.
up, we've struggled up the hilltop,
Mm.
the mountaintop to the high vantage point, and we've gone through the dark night of the soul, and we realized that period of phase is passed into the experience of union, a new way of living, something that astonishing, but yet deep within us, it's been there all along,
Mm-hmm.
helping guide us.
Yeah, but it's also a certain amount of, you have to also pay attention, eh?
Yes,
Because
very
by
much so.
paying attention, because if you're not paying attention, we just sort of skim over things. We lose what's really there. And if you weren't paying
Yes,
attention, you would have missed this. How about that?
Exactly, and that's part of the value of meditation, the
Mm-hmm.
Rosicrucian action makes us more sensitive.
Yeah.
We need to be vigilant, always on the lookout.
Yeah.
Our life is full of lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I'll mention a few more things, and then we can wrap up. I wanted to mention that some characteristics of the cosmic consciousness experience. Um, One of the persons who helped make that term cosmic consciousness more prominent and well known uh, is actually Richard Maurice Buck. I think many of you may know that pioneering Canadian medical doctor and psychiatrist.
Okay.
Worked in Hamilton, Ontario, also worked in London, Ontario. He was very progressive in his treatment of persons that are suffering mentally or
What's his name again? Just to be clear, what's his name?
Richard Maurice Buck.
Buck.
So
Okay.
Buck with an E on the end. He
Okay.
wrote a book, first edition came out in 1901, Cosmic Consciousness. I know the renowned psychologist at that time, um, um, James, he referred to that as a spiritual classic. Um, and we find uh, that in the book, he talks about various persons in history that experienced what he referred to as cosmic consciousness, what we've been talking about. And there's I've given you a reference there on the archive.org website. There's editions of it that you can see online. But Richard Maurice Buck had an experience of cosmic consciousness, and then it led him as part of his purpose in life to emulate that by putting in more humane practices in his profession, which is what he did in psychiatry and the medical profession. But whatever spiritual experience we have, it behooves us then to emulate them, put them in practice for the well-being and healing of others. But also as they're out in our environment more, that helps our inner nature to attune with the cosmic again, and we have a mutual reinforcing cyclical or circle in our life to increase our attunement and development towards mystical union and cosmic consciousness. Interestingly, a friend of Richard Maurice Buck was the renowned 19th century American poet Walt Whitman.
Okay.
And Richard Maurice Buck interpreted Walt Whitman's series of poems on the leaves of grass as an expression of the cosmic consciousness. And I think that if you read Buck's poetry, particularly in Leaves of Grass, in that way, that makes a lot of sense. In his book, he also talks about Dante and the Paradise and the Inferno, and that's written from the experience of those different phases of the mystical development we just talked about, but also from that cosmic sense, including the rising up into the celestial realm, similar to what we did in our exercise Dante did with Beatrice in the Paradiso, the Paradise. Buck and his experiences of cosmic consciousness, it's often said, well, in spirituality, experience of cosmic consciousness, it seems like a great leap forward for the individual. In a certain sense, it is, but it actually has been a very gradual development. There's been a lot of training, meditating, developing of the virtues, learning about the laws and principles of life, putting them into application, and then there's ready to make a leap, just like this person we see in front of us here, who's seeing the divine head. Richard Maurice Buck talks about, from his experience, and the Rosicrucians do as well, that when you have that illuminative experience, like we're seeing in the artwork before us, there's an experience of subjective light, like the energy work we spoke of earlier. There's also a moral elevation, the development of the virtues, even more extended that we've been purifying ourselves on. But in that cosmic sense, we start to be the living, radiant embodiment of the virtues, become very out from us. There's an intellectual illumination. We find it easier to understand various mental activities. Might have a much deeper appreciation, for example, of the sacred texts of the world and the unusual statements that sometimes have been seen in the past that Jesus or Muhammad or the Buddha said, for example. They make a lot more sense to us. Like when Jesus talked about, for example, the kingdom of heaven is within. One has a very deep experience of that now because it's something that's very real and one is living out. Also, he mentions about, and I spoke earlier, there's a sense of immortality. there's a loss of the fear of death, which is a great advantage to have, that one no longer fears the passing of loved ones or one's own self. Because in the cosmic conscious state, there's an experience of eternity now. There's also a loss of the sense of sin. Sin traditionally meant to miss the mark. So there isn't a heaviness with it. Yes, there's something you can do more harmonious and so forth, but it has a much deeper interpretation. As we spoke of, there's a suddenness of this new way of living experience. There's an elevation in the character of the person, the intellectual, moral, and physical. There's an added charm to the personality. There's a radiation, the sound in their voice. There's also, the person will seem transfigured. They'll appear different to others, especially if they have the ears to hear and the eyes to see. Interestingly, he talks about these characteristics in these various people, and we'll find that, if we come in contact with a person that is very mature, very calm, often that typically means they must be contacting the divine within them and having an experience of cosmic consciousness to a degree to be able to have those in a sustained way in their life. Mm-hmm. And I know often people say, like, I want to have a very uplifting experience and I just want it to stay. Well, it will stay, but one has to keep drawing back to it in meditation to re-enliven it, to keep it as a way of life, and become more and more an expression of that, the living, radiant embodiment of that.
Can I just sort of quickly ask a question, because it's interesting? Sure. You mentioned about about the fear of passing and all that. Last week we had a very interesting presentation being given by Miss Susie Karasik, who works with people who are in the stages of passing, and we had a talk about that. And I think we came about it from more sort of like the more clinical and the more sort of aspects of what it means to pass. And we looked at the spiritual aspect of it as well. But from this perspective, would you say that the cosmic consciousness is a part of this whole, like, it's a part of where we go after we pass? Did you want to just sort of maybe give us a little bit more information from that perspective?
It's the consciousness that's infusing everything. So in all it's back of all experiences, whether one's incarnated or not incarnated, or one's alive or not. There's sort of a sense more and more of that passing. That passing is Rosicrucians refer to as a transition. Death, there's a transition. There isn't a true death. It's a transition. It's a great initiation. It's a very, for example, the person who was quite involved with the Rosicrucians early on, Albert Hubbard, who's quite well known in the arts and crafts movement. Mm-hmm. He was about to journey with his partner across the Atlantic, and got on the Lusitania. There have been some warnings about it maybe sunk because of during World War I. And reporter said to him, "Aren't you concerned that you're going to be attacked and die?" And he said, I welcome that magnificent experience." And he took the reporters aback. But he had spoken about consciousness. He didn't have a fear of the death, and he felt deeply that was part of his mission to continue in that way. Mm-hmm. So there's what is important lessons in life is, increase loving nature, increase connection with others. In the cosmic consciousness experience, there's a tremendous sense of love. If you can, I've shown you some artworks to suggest it, but if you can think of your own experience, persons that you've loved very deeply. In the cosmic conscious state, one is loving everyone that strong, 10 times stronger than that. And it's happening with ease. If they're outer mind and they're self-conscious, you can only just take in one thing at a time. Mm-hmm. Consciousness shifts around. Sometimes it's a challenge to stay on task. In the cosmic conscious state, it's taking in everything at once, and it's doing it with ease. And this is the experience in cosmic consciousness, and that floods out into us, and we behooves us to live that out, to assist others in developing that. It's our birthright. It's it's something that, all the thrills of the day in a way are trying to mimic the cosmic conscious.
Yeah, it is.
But this is in its most genuine or
Yeah.
fully.
But you know what, though? It's interesting because you point out the fact that there's a lot of tremendous amount of love. And there's a couple of things you mentioned there. And actually stuff that we talked about last week as well with Miss Susie Karasik. And she was talking about the aspects of what happens when somebody passes away. And if I'm able to sort of like thread the two, your presentation and what she talked about last week, the cosmic consciousness is where we all our knowing is right there, because we
Yes,
come into this life completely wiped clean, and it seems that we're coming here to distance ourselves from the cosmic consciousness, if you will, to have a different perspective. Because it seems that when we're in that state of all knowing and all at once and everywhere all at once, that sort of thing, is we have a certain perspective, and that is the cosmic consciousness, and we pull ourselves. Why we want to pull ourselves away from it, I just don't know, but we pull ourselves away from it, and we come here into this 3D density to
hmm,
experience a different perspective and to bring
yes,
back more understanding and bring back more lessons into this
exactly.
consciousness. So it just sort of seems weird because like we're pulling ourselves out of it, but we're going back into it. And I think the reason why there's fear is because sometimes, unfortunately, people die, they transition. I think that's sort of the word we like to
Yes,
use. They transition with through pain. If they get
yes,
shot or they get into the war or they get,
yes,
killed by a partner and that kind of, I mean, that's horrible. But like,
yes,
but it doesn't always have to be that way. Did you want to just sort
yes,
of comment on that a bit?
yes, for sure. One thing that's very valuable in terms of that deeper experience of the divine is that it's there's always that love and support within us, no matter what happens to us. That's beyond the pain and is very, very healing. And that, part of these experiences is that part of the reason we meditate is we can get novel thoughts and insights we can take into meditation questions. But we're drawing on that cosmic mind, the consciousness of the cosmic, for those answers. When we enter into that state, the answers are there. It's a matter of just drawing them out from ourselves. Here, this is our arena for learning. Shakespeare said all the world's a stage,
Yeah.
for example. This is we come here, continue learning, and um, we gather gradually more and more able to sustain that cosmic awareness. If you hold to the doctrine of reincarnation, that with each life we're polishing that mirror within us that reflects the divine, the divine. It's getting clearer and clearer. We're learning more and more lessons in life. The mirror more and more reflects true divine nature. The person is more and more spiritualized in that. The Rosicrucians use the term soul personality. I mean, that's what's evolving over time. It's different. There's a conception that there's one soul, but the soul is the object, and the soul personality is the image. And the point is in evolving is to get the image closer and closer, matching the object, the soul personality, being able to match each other, and then the fullness of life and the meaning of life is taken in. Just gonna have a drink of water for a moment,
Yeah,
please.
sure, no problem. And it's interesting, and I have a curveball to throw you, but I'll let you finish before I do.
Well, I just sometimes, related to this and try to give a sense of meaning through these deeper, challenging times, is that sometimes it's wondering what's the deepest meaning and purpose in life. Well, one of the keys for that is that we have the entirety of, well, some would say that the cosmic and all the entirety of the universe, universal intelligence back of it, the tremendous system and order. How does it become self-conscious? Because like Bach and the Rosicrucian Order, we talk about simple consciousness that many animals have, and that idea, but not necessarily self-aware. It's like when a baby's held up, to a mirror and has a look at itself, or a cat sees itself in a mirror, and suddenly it started as like, okay, I've had this basic operational state of consciousness, simple consciousness, reacting to the environment and so forth. But there's that point development or leap in consciousness to self-consciousness, where it can actually reflect back on oneself. That's a major step in evolution of consciousness. And as a person matures and grows, they're more able to do that. But that's also setting up the foundation for the cosmic consciousness. It'll go beyond self-conscious. But it's very interesting. You could say, well, how does the cosmic become, or the cosmic mind become self-consciousness, or have conscious of itself? And I'm talking about self here in the expanded sense, not of the individual human, but the entirety of existence. Mm-hmm. One of the ways that it does that is through being sentient enough to reflect on the entirety of the cosmos. So when the human enters into cosmic consciousness, it's helping the entirety of creation, the entirety of the cosmic, to be self-conscious. And that's part of the profundity of the experience and part of the purpose of life, actually. Yeah.
Okay. And so that really explains it. And I think that sort of gives a very, how should I say, an encompassing view of the idea of cosmic consciousness, because sometimes we look at that word and we think, oh, but it's all the way over there, and I'm not evolved enough, or I'm not spiritual enough to really sort of reach it and all that kind of stuff. And that's just not true. We are all heading. Now, here's the curveball I want to throw at you, because, and see if you can catch it. So, whoosh. But here's the thing. So, as you know, on this show, we often talk about different topics, and in particular, we talk about extraterrestrials on the show. And I know that in some people, I see it as a very, very divergent from what we're talking about here with the Rosicrucians. However, one of the things that's very common that people talk about when they have connections with different extraterrestrial races is they talk about how humanity is on its way towards maturity. We are at a level where we are becoming mature. So if you have a teenage son or daughter, they're not children, but they're not fully adults just yet. And we say, I know you want to grow up. I know you want to grow up really fast, but take your time learning the lessons that you need to learn as a teenager. Use those times to make the mistakes. And when you turn 20, 21, that's when you can now start to become the adult, and you still need the experience. Obviously, an adult at 21 is not the same as an adult at 45. Obviously not. But the curveball I want to throw to you here is that one of the things that a lot of the extraterrestrial races talk about is that we are coming to a level of maturity where we are going to be like other extraterrestrial races who remember their past lives. Other extraterrestrial races that know about cosmic knowledge, that study that, like, they say, we don't really have school like you do. We know, we born knowing, having this knowingness. We understand our place in the cosmos. We understand who we are, and we understand how we are connected with one another, all that sort of thing. Now, how do you feel when I talk to you about that? When I say that there are other races that say that this is where we go from Homo erectus to Homo galacticus. This is the next level of humanity. And that this is why this planet at this point in time in history is so important, because we are reaching our 18th or 21st birthday if you're in the States. But we are at, when you have your 18th birthday, that's when you become an adult. And that's when all the rules change from being a teenager to now being an adult. If you can sort of blend the two. I just wanted to sort of get your perspective on that.
I think that's an essential harmony with what we've been talking about.
Okay.
Even when we did the metaphysical aid, I mentioned about to radiate love and well-being out to all sentient beings in need, and that it's true. There is there's different graduations of cosmic consciousness, and it's all-encompassing consciousness in degrees that it's sustained and appreciated, and there is evolution going on. Now, some may take, and we've talked about the pseudo-Dionysus, for example, a mystic of the ancient period into the antiquity. Talked about the hierarchy or the choir, ninefold of angelic beings, for example. There's different intelligences. We talk about visible and invisible masters in terms of their mastership. They no longer need to incarnate, but they still operate at much higher rates of vibration, and much in a much more less materialized form, for example. And so all these things, they have a relationship or parallel with what you're talking about. And there could be different degrees of how literally one means in certain senses, or one means them as symbolic. But I think they're an essential accord. And I think it's very good to have that idea that we're growing, we're learning, that this is part of the deeper purpose in life,
Mm-hmm.
and we're helping the entirety of existence to be conscious of itself and whatever expressions of life and consciousness that takes.
I see. Well, I think that that's pretty much the way I'm seeing it as well. I think that because of the type of topics that we talk about on this show, I think that what I find interesting is that whether you're coming from the perspective of the Rosicrucian and deeper understanding and deeper esoteric knowledge, or whether you're coming from the extraterrestrial perspective, it seems that humanity is on this path, and that you can track it in different ways, but we are all sort of working towards that final end goal. You
Yes,
know what I
indeed.
mean?
The Rosicrucian tradition is that the Rosicrucian tradition emphasizes freedom of thought, and people,
Mm-hmm.
take up the teachings of the Rosicrucian Order and its exercises in a way that makes sense to each person, and they can adapt other things into their personal philosophy if they wish.
Mm-hmm.
And so, uh, it, these are essential tools, and one can use them in all these ways we've just been discussing.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's great. So, I think that I'm just trying to see here if we have any other questions. Um, and I have a comment here from Linda Reinhardt. She says, I agree, and we are just getting to the frequency where we can remember our roots. And I think that that's really interesting, because if we, and I know if you had asked me this 20 years ago, I would have been like, I don't get it. Like, why are we coming here and we're having amnesia and we don't know, and it's stupid. But like, I think that at this point in time, I realize that we have to learn. We
Yes.
have to do. And I mean, you can have your, like, again, like the parent child analogy here, where you can have
Oh,
your
yes.
parents tell you, no, don't do this and don't do that and this and that. And you're like, oh, no, shut up. You're stupid. But like, I mean, you can say that to your parents, but then you go off and you live your life and you make your mistakes, but then you do come back. And I can definitely attest to that, where my mother told me to say, well, you should do this, you should do that. And at the time I was just like, no. And now I look back and I think, my God, she was so right. Am
Yes.
I
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh, yes.
it's
That
always
can
that
happen.
way. There's a
Yeah.
definite cycle of knowledge that's definitely there. We may
Yes.
arrive at that knowledge in different ways, and we may make our
Yes.
mistakes. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, our parents were right. Damn it.
Yes. That's an expansion of awareness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like me to make a concluding statement?
Yeah. Sure. Please do.
Okay. Very good. So, uh, so we've been speaking about cosmic consciousness this evening, and this is our final episode
Mm-hmm.
of the series with with you. And so,
Mm-hmm.
the central purpose of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC and mysticism in general, uh, and I would indeed say life, is to assist us in evolving and maturing into the state of cosmic consciousness. And we've covered what are the characteristics of cosmic consciousness, and how this realization of this state transforms us, makes us whole, heals us, and increases our capacity for service. And we've had a meditation and mystical exercise, because it's always very important to have the firsthand experience in mysticism and in Rosicrucianism. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you so much. And I really just want to say thank you so much, Hugh, for being with us and for sharing all this beautiful information. It's really been an absolute treasure having you here on the show, and we really appreciate you. And I hope that we can come back and have some more presentations and work with you again in the future. I really would love to
Yes.
have that. And I'm also want to encourage everybody to click on the link that you have in the live chat or also you've received the link as well in the mailouts, and to check out some of the information. And they have a great website. And so no matter where you are, you can check out and click on the link and find out more information. And if you are in the GTA, Toronto area, definitely check out the Toronto chapter. I'm sure Dr. McCaig would be happy to receive you, and
Yes.
you can sort of see him in person. So that would be great. So we're going to be coming. We were supposed to come to Toronto this time around, but it didn't work out. So we're going to be coming in May of next year, and I'm hoping that we will be able to have a chance to meet and to talk more about Rosicrucianism as a whole. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Dr. McCaig, for being with us. We really appreciate your presentation, and we look forward to seeing you again. If people have any questions, they can reach out to him and send whatever questions or comments you have. I'm sure that he'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have. And so let us know if you would like to talk more with him. Just reach out to him. And I want to say thank you to everybody for being with us tonight. Maybe we can just sort of like quickly have ring our sound bell one more time, just to sort of close off the energy of the evening, and then we can take it from there. So would you be willing to do that with us, Hugh?
Yes, sure, Crystal. Let me just thank you for all your great organizing, and great to be with everyone. Great to
Yeah.
be in your presence. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we will do that. And I want to say thanks again to everyone, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everyone. See you next week.